Allie, one of the hosts of Country Pride Radio on BMFM 91.7. I just had a chance to sit down and chat with Kristina Kidd, one of our up-and-coming artists. I got to talk to her about her latest EP, Burn the Map, her musical influences, and how she once made a classmate cry. Check it out.
So, alright, let's play questions.
Okay. Well, let's start with the basics. How long have you been playing? How long have you been writing?
Well, I started singing when I was a little kid, kind of just like, oh, I like that song on the radio and sing along to it. So I grew up on Reba and Dolly Parton and all the greats and Alan Jackson. Man, I loved Alan Jackson. And I still do. And didn't really start writing or playing until I was in college. And one day I was kind of sitting in a room and thinking about, oh, like, blah, blah, blah. I had this little melody in my head, and I was like, that's kind of fun. So I started like putting words to it. And about 45 minutes later, I was like, I think this is a song. I'm not really sure. I don't think I'm a songwriter. And so, went on, like, kept singing it. I was like, I think it's a song. I think it's a song now. And I had a friend, and he played guitar, and I told him, I was like, I think I wrote a song. And he's like, well, I'll come over and we'll put chords to it and we'll play around. Came over and did it, and it was so fun, and I was just kind of like hooked at that point. I was like, this is what I want to do. This is how I can like actually validate going to Nashville, as if I can like write my own song.
I know you said a couple of like your favorites growing up, but who have you been like your biggest musical influences?
Definitely Reba. Reba was the first country artist because I didn't really like start out saying like, here's country music. It was one day I was just listening to a song and I was like, Dad, I really like that song. Can we find it? Like, I want to hear it again, because I think I heard it at a dance recital. And it was, Why Haven't I Heard From You? And I think I was probably 5. And my dad was like, well, I think that's country radio, So we flipped over through the radio stations and we found a country station, and we were like, okay, well, let's just keep it there every time we get in the car until we hear the song again. And so about 2 weeks later, I heard it. I was like, that's the song, that's it. And so I grew up on Reba, and Reba was the first stuff I started singing along to, and first concert I ever went to, and just kind of what got me hooked on music. And then always loved Alan Jackson, and Reba, Alan Jackson, and Garth Brooks were the first CDs that I got in my stocking from Santa.
When you sit down to write, because I know you said like songwriting is your passion, how does it start? Like, is there something that inspires you and then you think, oh, I have to write that song? Or like, is it a melody?
It's really changed since I started writing. At first I was kind of just like, oh, well, this inspired me, so I'm going to write this. And then once I got here, I kind of started like training myself to be a songwriter, and that's kind of what Belmont helped a lot with. And you learn how to critique yourself, and you kind of have to just start building from there. And so once I started like training myself as a writer, it was like, okay, and then you kind of listen for things that people say in cool ways, or you could like see something somewhere, it's like, that's neat, or like I like to write a lot about good things in the world, and like I love a good sad song, but I think the world needs more good songs, like positive songs, I guess. And so I like try to pay attention to like little things that people do. I'm like, okay, like that's kind of where Love, Love, Love came from, because it was just like at Christmas time I was thinking about it one year, and this was like years ago, and I was like, that, like, I feel like that's not recognized enough. Like, even just like putting a little bit of money in Salvation Army, like, you don't know whose life you're helping, but people do it just because they're like, I'm helping somebody. And I always thought that was really cool. And so and a lot of times when you sit down to co-write, it's whatever your co-writer's going through, or maybe your co-writer has a cool idea, or like today we just had a write and it started and we were like, oh, that's a cool idea. And by the time we got to it, we were like, I don't know how to like say this and make this right, like where people are going to understand what we're trying to say. And so like a couple minds working off of each other is always a lot of fun, because you are able to like push each other, and somebody will say something in one way and you're like, oh, and then that triggers another thought, and then like 6 thoughts later you've got an idea that you're kind of happy with. And so it's really like, it's just a lot of training yourself on like what to listen to.
So you just released, was this your first EP?
This was the first EP. We did a little single when Love, Love, Love is on the EP, but we did it as a single for like a class project 2 years ago or three years ago. I was in a publishing class, and then kind of that started jump-starting everything, and it was like, okay, well, maybe I want to be able to put together an EP, and so we raised money for it through the Kickstarter website, and kind of took all that, and it was a really neat process because we used players that I just met through being here, and so the whole thing was just kind of a collaboration of all my friends, which was really neat to be able to say like, oh, my best friend played on that track, and I just really, like, that's one of my favorite things about being here is just the friendships and people that you meet, because everybody's so talented and brings every different little part in. So we did the EP and released that in, I guess we released it digitally in April, and then did the EP release, of course, in July. And so it's nice to have a physical product and like go play at little shows and say, okay, well, if you really liked it, here's my CD. And so I've been pretty proud of it. I'm excited to start the next project now. I can interview you. What's your favorite song on Burn the Map?
Oh my gosh. I love Georgia Blues.
You like Georgia Blues?
I love Georgia Blues.
When we added the dobro into Georgia Blues, that was kind of a last-minute decision, but adding that dobro in made me love that track. At first I was like, oh, that's a fun track. And then we put the dobro in and I was like, I love to listen to this. And I like the end too when the song stops. But I do love the end when the two guitar players are playing off of each other. And it really just like, when it happened in the studio, there was so much chemistry, and you could just like feel that energy, because the first guitar player did like his 2 tracks, and then another guy came in and like they were talking together, and they were like, well, why don't we both like play off of each other? And so they did it that way, and it was cool to like see one of them play, and then the next guitar player was like, oh, okay, and so they kind of challenged each other, and that was just a really cool thing, and it turned out really cool. And then the dobro just comes in and just kind of attacks the whole thing. Oh, I love it.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I think I already know the answer to this one, but if you could sing with anyone in the world, who would it be?
Gosh, I don't know. Oh, sure. No, I'm just kidding. No, probably Reba. Just to bring it completely full circle. I got in a fight with a boy in 4th grade because he told me that Reba sucked. And so I went home, and he threw sand in my hair. And so I went home, and I cried to my mom. And then the next day he told me Reba sucked again, so I stepped on his foot with my boot, and I got in trouble. He cried. I was kind of happy about that. Until I got in trouble.
I think that's a great story.
Don't mess with me. She's my girl.
Oh, that's great. Alright, so what do you think is next for you?
Well, that's a good question. I'm first and foremost a songwriter, and so my main goal is to write great songs. And so ideally I would love a publishing deal, and just some way to like start from the ground and work my way up. Because once you're here for just even a couple months, you realize like how much work it takes to get anywhere. And so you're like, okay, well, if I can just have a good foundation and just build up from there, just got to keep working hard. And so I guess just I'll keep writing songs and keep playing them, and hopefully that'll go somewhere.
I'm here as long as it's you.